Okay, here we go. Chapter 2 of the Lois Lowry's The Willoughbys. This chapter is called A Parental Conspiracy. And don't mind me, it's hat day for my school today, so rocking the hat that I got to make for Halloween this year. Here we go. Mr. and Mrs. Willoughby were seated in front of the fireplace after dinner. He was reading a newspaper and she was knitting something out of beige wool. The 4 children in flannel pajamas entered the room. "I'm making the cat a sweater," Mrs. Willoughby told them, holding up the knitting in which one small, thin sleeve had already been formed. "I was hoping maybe you were making a second sweater for me and Barnaby B," Barnaby A said. "It's difficult taking turns in a sweater." "I've explained and explained," their mother said in expiration. "A, you wear it on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. B, you have it Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and on Sunday you can fight over it." She turned to her husband. "It's disgusting. The way these children today all want their own sweaters." She knit a few more stitches industrially. "Children," Mr. Willoughby said in an impatient voice, putting his newspaper down, "did you want something?" "Oh, we were hoping perhaps that you'd read us a story," Tim said. "Parents in books always read stories to their children at bedtime." "I believe the mother usually does that," Mr. Willoughby said, looking toward his wife. "I'm busy," Mrs. Willoughby said. "The cat needs a sweater." And hastily she knit another stitch. Mr. Willoughby scowled. "Hand me a book," he said, and Tim went to the bookcase and began fingering the volumes that were lying on the shelf. "Make it fast," his father said. "I'm in the middle of an article about interest rates." Quickly, Tim handed him a volume of fairy tales, and his father opened it in the middle as the children arranged themselves in a semicircle by his feet. They looked like a painting on a Christmas card. "God bless us, every one," murmured Barnaby A, but Tim poked at him. Mr. Willoughby began to read out loud. "Hard by a great forest dwelt a poor woodcutter and his wife and his 2 children. The boy was called Hansel and the girl Gretel, and he had little to bite and to break. And once, when great dearth fell on the land, he could no longer procure even daily bread. Now, when he thought over this by night in his bed, he tossed and turned in his anxiety. He groaned and said to his wife, 'What is to become of us? How are we to feed the poor children when we no longer have anything for ourselves?' 'I'll tell you what, husband,' answered the woman. 'Early tomorrow morning we will take the children out in the forest where it is the thickest. There we will light a fire for them, give them each one more piece of bread, and then we will go to our work and leave them alone. They will not find their way home again, and we shall be rid of them.'" Jane's lower lip trembled, and she gave a little small sob. Barnaby A and Barnaby B looked very nervous, and Tim scowled. "The end," said their father, closing the book with a snap. "Bedtime." Silently, though Jane was still sniffling, the children scurried away and up the staircase to bed. Mrs. Willoughby turned to her needles and began a new row of stitches. Mr. Willoughby picked up his newspaper, but did not begin reading again. Instead, he stared into space for a moment, and then he said, "Dearest?" "Yes, dearest." "I need to ask you a question." He chewed his lip briefly. "Yes, dearest." "Do you like our children?" "Oh, no," Mrs. Willoughby said, using her gold-plated scissors to snip off a bit of yarn that made a snarl. "I never have, especially that tall one. What is his name again?" "Timothy Anthony Macaulay Willoughby." "Yes, him. Oh, he's the one I least like, but the others are awful too. That girl whines incessantly, and 2 days ago she tried to make me adopt a beastly infant." Her husband shuddered. "And then there are the 2 I can't tell them apart," Mrs. Willoughby went on. "The ones with the sweater." "The twins?" "Yes, them. Why on earth do they look so much alike? It confuses people and it isn't fair." "I have a plan," Mr. Willoughby said, putting his paper down. He stroked one eyebrow in a satisfied way. It's thoroughly despicable. Lovely. A plan for what? He said his wife. To rid us of the children. Oh, goodness. Do we have to walk them into a dark forest? I don't have the right shoes for that. No, this is a better plan. More business-like. Oh, goody. I'm all ears, she replied with a malevolent smile, as she meticulously dropped a few stitches to make a hole for the cat's tail. So stay tuned next time for Chapter 3 to see what happens to the Willoughbys.